Hello, everybody. I'm Michelle with Amrock Fab Lab. I'm here with Pam and Peter with Find Me Auto Help, which is one of our series that we do monthly with Pam Oakes. We talk about all kinds of car care needs and tips and for repairs, for getting along. And tonight is kind of exciting because we're going to go through some emails that Pam gets and just discuss them with everybody. So let us know if you have any questions in the comments. We'll be popping those up live. And Pam and Peter, we'll get David on here in just a second. But in the meantime, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Michelle. Hey,
Thank
Peter.
You, Michelle.
Hey, Dave. Dave's coming here in a few
Hi,
seconds.
Dave. What do you get here?
They're going to be switching in. Dave's not here, but he will be soon. And like Michelle said, tonight we're going to be going over some of the emails that I get on Find Me Auto Help. And they're consumer-based, and they're asking questions that I'm sure has crossed everybody's mind regarding car repair, car care. So we have a few of them. Please chime in. If you got a question, put it in the comments, like Michelle said, and we'll read those as well. I have the comment portion already up and ready for your questions. So as we're waiting for Dave to come on board, Peter, oh, there's Dave. Hey, Dave.
How you doing? Dave's not here.
Dave's here now. So
I'm definitely here now.
So since Dave, he's got decades in the dealership arena. This is a few of these are going to probably be really near and dear to his heart. And starting off with the first one, I have a question from Emily, and she's in East Memphis. And Emily writes, every time I go to get an oil change, the repair shop, the mechanic gives me a to-do list. Each time the items on the list are different. I asked him why, and he says it's because the items that are needed to be repaired. How do I know what services need to be done? It's a very good question, isn't it?
Yep. He's asking a question. So that's the main thing.
Yes, that's true. That is the main thing. So we've all experienced this because we've all been in shops, us independents, and Dave's been in the dealership. And every time you see a car, you see something different after it's been on the road for 5,000, 7,000 miles, hasn't it, Dave?
Very true. Very true.
And you know that list, you should see some of the stuff that you had on there before, like if it needs brake pads or whatever. But it could grow depending upon the use and abuse. And yeah, we all abuse our vehicles.
Oh, yes.
Raising my hand, I do it. Yep.
I still get to change the oil in my car.
Peter.
Yes.
You know better.
Yeah, unfortunately I do. That's the sad part.
We're the worst.
I got to do that.
We're the worst, aren't we, Dave, when it comes to fixing our cars?
Yeah,
Mechanics are the worst.
Thing you want to do when you work on cars all day.
All day, and you're not getting paid to work on your own. So it's like,
exactly right.
I'll do it later. You know, I actually ruined a set of tires because I kept on a set of front. I hit a pothole and I knew it, and it was a nasty. And I'm like, I gotta line this thing. I'll do it Saturday after work. I'll do it after work on Saturday. After work on Saturday, I want it out. And then the weekend, I was like, I'll stay after one night and I'll do it.
Never
Week
happened.
went by, Saturday afternoon again, I'm like, I don't have time for this. And a couple of weeks later, I finally did it, and I looked, and you could see the inside was wiped on one of them. I mean, it was a jarring pothole that came up overnight from wherever. But it's like, yep, I'm going to do it. So we pay the price too, guys, for not paying attention to our vehicles and not doing things when we're supposed to be doing them. But in this case, you know, you're getting this list. You know, Dave, I wonder if she's getting the dealership list.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, there's a difference, isn't there?
Yeah, there's the you need to do list, and then there's the we need to upsell for the for future concerns. But yeah, that's two totally different things. There's the types that where, for example, you need tires. Your tire tread's too low, or your radiator fluid is dirty, or the brake fluid is not red anymore; it's black. Anything like that. Definitely, those are the have to dos. Then there's you could use a fuel injection service, or something like that. Now those are, you can kind of push those down the road a little bit.
Yeah, you can. And it reminds me of after I sold the shop for decades, I was in the dealership, not here in the Tampa Bay area. I was out of town for a warranty. It was an airbag recall. Make sure, guys, that you have your airbag recalls performed, because there's still about 25 million sitting out there that haven't been performed yet. So that's imperative. I mean, it literally, if you could just have a tiny fender bender and yours is under the recall, the Takata airbag recall, what it's all about is the moisture getting in that canister, ammonium nitrate, the explosive property, and the moisture from our heat and humidity, it has permeated the cylinder, the really porous metal cylinder. It supercharges it. So if you do get even in the minor one and the airbags deploy, the supercharged ammonium nitrate that prompts the bags to deploy, it will actually rip out the housing of the SRSS-IR, the supplemental air restraint, and it's impaling people, and people are dying from getting impaled. So, make the long story short, one of my former customers, he was in there for a vehicle maintenance. He just bought this Jeep, and they were trying to sell him, just like Dave said, the injection flush. And there was something else that I can't remember because it was quite a few years back now. And he was like, no, I can't afford $169 for an injection flush today. So just do my service. And after the rep left, I went over to him and I said, Thad, guy's name was Thad. I says, thank you. You listened to me after all those years. After all those years, thank you. And of course, he's like, what are you doing here? This is warranty. But yeah, they do like to do that. And it's a shame, it really is. But there are some valuable dealership recommendations in there as well. But you have to sit there and you have to sift through them. You really do. So I don't know. What would you give this individual? What would you tell her? Just to get a second opinion, maybe?
Yeah, second opinion. I mean, though you usually have to pay for an inspection fee or something like that. I mean, a second opinion would definitely help. Sometimes it might save you money. Sometimes if they find something different, that it could definitely, instead of going the wrong route, you might hit something, or maybe somebody might find something different that might be the cause.
And then if they're giving you straight skinny too.
Yeah,
exactly. They keep on doing that all the time. Okay, let's go on to our second question here. I got my tires rotated in the I'm sorry, this is from Jean from Roselle, Illinois. I got my tires rotated and the mechanic said I would be due for new tires this summer. I thought about this and wondered, how would they know it would be summer and not fall? Are they figuring out my driving schedule or what? That's a good question. It's a crystal ball. They're looking into their crystal ball from Hogwarts, right? Yes, you're going to be due for tires. I don't know. You go off of how many 30 seconds are left. That's how I was taught, right?
And an average of what you wear, as the tires wear. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be kind of tough.
Depends
Gene, I
where
was.
you're
Go
Depends where
ahead,
you're
Peter.
located in the U.S. too.
That's right. And he's up north, so he doesn't have what we have here in Tampa Bay area or Florida in general. Is our roadbed is composite of sand and it's got shell. You can actually see the shell in the roadbed. If you've ever gone out in your bare feet to get the mail on the mailbox and stepped on the road, you know, you instantly develop a new vocabulary as you're trying to
That's
get back
exactly
on
true.
your driveway. but but yeah, that makes it they wear much quicker. In fact, when we had the shop, we used to have people come in, and the rotations were free. Every 3 to 3,500 miles, we'd rotate them front to back, just because of the heat. And that was in Fort Myers as well, and it gets maybe 5 degrees warmer than it does up here in the Tampa Bay area, which I just love the Tampa Bay area. Everybody asks us, says, didn't you like Fort Myers? And I says, it was nice. I says, but it's very tourist oriented. Up here, it's more community oriented. It's nice. Yeah. Not so many people coming and going. So,
Yeah. Constant flow. Yeah.
yeah. So, Gene, I would just keep my eye on the tires, is what I would do personally, because they don't know, and you didn't really give us any make, model, brand, what you're running on your car. So just check back, and again, just like Emily, maybe get a second opinion. See if you really do. And remember, you got that wear bar in there. That wear bar, you need to do it now.
I was just going to say either follow the wear bar or get one of those little tread depth gauges. I mean, they're only a few dollars, very cheap. Stick it and then read it, and you can kind of keep track of it yourself.
Going forward with this, and I'm sure you guys are aware, but we'll tell our listeners that they've actually developed, and it's been in a couple of the manufacturers for testing, of course, in their test mode, how all manufacturers do. But they actually have a little chip, for lack of a better terminology. And when the tire tread gets down to that and wears into that chip on your infotainment center, the center of the car, you'll get your warning there. And you'll actually get an ad. That's the part that they're having the problem with, is the ads. That's where they're kind of having an issue with. But it's the ad. Will come up, say, hey, come to so-and-so's tire shop, or choose this brand of tire. They actually have it that it's been capable for years, that with the infotainment, that if you drive by a grocery store, they can actually trigger it to tell you what's on sale today, like milk, 25 cents off, or what, seriously. And so not only being bombarded on our television and then on our internet and on our phones, but now we're going to get it in the infotainment center of our cars. There's no escape.
That's like there's a movie like that where as you walk by certain things, you get ads, and each person gets a different kind of ad.
Yeah, that's how this is going to work too. Yeah, because the vehicle knows where you drive.
That's it.
It's got that memory.
Yeah, the movie is it's a Minority Report.
Really?
Yeah, it's in there, and I guess because everybody has a chip, in them, they know, like, if you need, if you high blood pressure as you're walking by, they'll recommend certain things. But yeah, if that goes in a car, as your gas gauge goes low, all of a sudden you'll need gas, so that'll say, hey, stop at 7-Eleven. And
I actually have that on my infotainment. It'll tell me all the different gas stations within about 2.5 miles with the pricing and everything. And I'm like,
oh, that's
what do I need this for? I already know where I'm going to go. I know I'm going to use top tier fuel. What do I need this for? But yeah. So it was interesting because all the pricing started to really fluctuate. I mean, within like 20 cents difference all of a sudden. So the other day I was sitting at a light and I was looking at the sign, and it was for $271. And I'm like, Well, I just saw it for $2.58 down the street. So I started playing with it while I'm waiting for this ridiculously long light that I knew I wasn't even going to go through the intersection because it was so packed. But it's like, oh, look at, they're all over the board now. I'm scrolling. But that's, yeah, it's
That's so cool.
kind of silly that we're going to have to be bombarded not only while we're driving, but hey, that's what it's all about, right? Being a consumer.
Exactly.
So let's see here. We have one from Miami Springs. Oh, he's in our state. And one asks, the mechanic replaced my battery last Saturday, and now I'm struggling to reset the clock in my radio stations and seat preferences. I checked online, but that really wasn't any help to me. Who can tell me how to do this? I'd go back to the shop, wouldn't you?
Yeah, make them do it.
To make them do it? Yeah.
If
Because
worst case scenario, or have him check his owner's manual.
that's a good idea
It'll show him
too.
how to do that.
Yeah, that would show them. Yeah, just like everybody will go into the shop, and it would be daylight savings time around that. Dave, I know you went through this. Everybody would have the clock either forward or back. You'd get in the cars and you're like, and so you'd do it for them. You'd move it forward or back for them to make the right time. Because you're like, how can they be driving like this?
I've done it.
Yeah, it's like, stop this here. But yeah, maybe if they'd even show the guy, you know. They're lucky that it was an old enough vehicle that it didn't set the security system.
Yeah, that's
That
true.
would have been a pricey tow and $200 reset.
Yeah, older Volkswagens.
Yes.
Everything now, unfortunately. Everything has to be programmed now. And I do auto tech instruction as well. And it's amazing to find the shops that are not getting involved with programming. They had these horrible scenarios thrown at them and they're like, nope, don't want to do it. You know, we show them how easy it is and they're like, that's it. I'm like, that's it. And why haven't we been doing this? I don't know. But it's that simple. Instead of towing it somewhere or whatever, what have you, or bringing the guy in to reprogram, that's pricey too. Really pricey. Let's go on to our next one here. Let's see. This one's from Al. Al is in Marietta, Georgia. I was just up there a little while ago. Marietta, Georgia. And Al says, I had my cooling system flushed last fall. I moved to Georgia in January. Now my new mechanic said I need to have my air conditioning service before the summer heat arrives. How often do you have the cooling system flush? I don't remember having the service so often in my other cars I had.
Sounds like he's a little confused.
Does, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, because there's a difference between the engine keeping cool and then us keeping cool inside the cab of the vehicle. So I think
he's a little mixed up.
He's a little mixed up there.
But
Well,
what is
cooling-
there to service in the air conditioning though, really? If it's working, it's working.
Exactly.
Not broken, don't fix it. Yeah.
Right.
But you see those ads all the time. Doesn't that drive me nuts? You see those ads on TV? Oh, it's spring. Let us service your AC. It's like, it's a closed system. What are we doing? You having a problem? Leave it go.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
No. I think he just got the two mixed up.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
But even having them go and service the AC, unless you're having a problem, I wouldn't touch it.
The only thing that may need to get changed would be the cabin filter, and that'd be about it, if it has one. Other than that,
and if the system is exactly, and if the system is sealed, you don't want to crack it open.
No,
No, you don't.
that's why not.
Yeah.
Because then you'd be introducing non-condensable gas in there, and then you're down. You're done. It's downhill from there. Then I was in this one shop one time, because I'm in a lot of shops with what I do at the training. I was in this shop this one time, and they had a car come in and they were servicing the AC, and I'm like, can't say anything really, you know what I mean? Because you're the guest. I'm sitting there watching this out of the corner of my eye, and they actually did a evacuation, vacuum and recovery, and then recharge. And then they were looking at the difference between the two, and I'm thinking, how do you know how your equipment, right? It could be an ounce or two different.
Yeah.
134
Right.
couldn't be calibrated quite right. And, that's really important because, we got that new stuff that's in all the cars and trucks now, 1234YF. And it's amazing because you see it in the parts stores, how they sell that on the shelf. Yeah, I let them go because I figure if they got a problem, they're putting this hand grenade. Remember they used to call them hand grenades? This hand grenade in the car. And then they get a problem, they're doing this, they're going to overcharge it, it's still going to be undercharged. And they're going to come in and see me the next day. So yes, please, buy more. You know what I mean? But the new stuff, and I'm really surprised that they let the consumer mess with the 1234YF, because that's actually mildly flammable, they call it. It's an A2L, mildly flammable. It's just a little flammable. Well, yeah. Any condition, spark, there's an ignition point to this. And we never had that forever. Our 12 Freon, that never had it. In fact, remember we used to take our little propane torch and the hose to see if the flame turned green or not. That was our leak detectors back then.
I remember that.
Remember that? Yeah. And then we went over, now they made us buy leak detectors for a couple $100, and the new ones are a couple $100. But, any little spark, and that's why they don't, and that's another thing too, the consumer doesn't realize how this stuff can be so touchy, because evaporator cores, which are underneath the dash guys, they leak. It happens. You get leaves and everything, right, Dave? Peter, you get leaves and everything, it rots them out, and then they start leaking, and you have 20 hours to pull the dash out, put a new one in, and put the dash back in place. But when the new legislation for the 1234YF, the new refrigerant for our cars and trucks, if, for an example, you got into an accident and they had to replace the dash because it's cheaper doing that than the airbags, they will get one out of a salvage yard, out of a vehicle. They can't run anything anyway, but the dashboard's great. They put it in the car. They have to replace the evaporator core with a brand spanking new one now, just to prevent that from leaking. And what happens when it leaks in the car is that the refrigerant settles around the floorboard. And what's down there? Your electric seats, your heated seat module, all that stuff. One little spark. So I don't know how they're allowing them to sell it, but they are. And people, they don't know, and they're forcing couplers, and they're doing cross-contamination, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been really interesting. So we're going to see how this one flies in the next year or so, especially with 134A not being produced.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm sorry. I'll get off my soapbox.
Well, just the sole fact of the new Freon or refrigerant, if it has to be like exact, right?
Yes, because it's lower
too
amount.
little or too much, it's not going to work.
No, and that's what put that thought process in my head when we said it was a little bit off, The new AC systems, they actually will be maybe 13, 14 ounces to maybe 16, 18 ounces versus 24, 28 ounces, which had a little bit more of a give which by that one tech installing that extra couple of ounces, you could get away with it. Now you can't. That's what started this thought process, and I went off through the woods, down the valley, came back around. Tell me to stop it, ma'am, stop it.
Yes, she ended up at Grandma's house.
Yeah, I ended up at Grandma's house. But the air worked.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, let's see. So, Al, I think you're just a little confused. They're two different systems. And one's for the inside of the cab, one's for the engine. If you have a hybrid, for the engine, battery, et cetera, et cetera. So, anyway, here we go. Oh, Dave. We have a namesake, Dave, and he's based out of Knoxville. And Dave says, I had an idiot light come on the dash and stay on. Couldn't find my book, don't know what it is, but it looks like someone holding a beach ball in their lap. Any ideas?
Airbag?
That'd be an airbag.
Yeah, that's that airbag. That's that
Beach
supplemental.
ball. I like that.
I like the beach ball. I love that.
Well, you don't know what it is. That's a good description. I figured out what it was after his description, so why not?
Yeah, exactly.
But I love the beach ball description. It's supposed to be the airbag deploying actually in your face with a beach ball. I'll have to share that with a couple of other people too. That's funny stuff. No, but
Now,
you know what? You said the
light
book.
coming on means that the system is off, correct?
Exactly. Yes. Lights on, it's not working.
Right.
And you need it to work because our seatbelts, our safety restraints and our seatbelts, that all works hand in hand. It's not like our older cars when we didn't have that. And they were designed around just the seatbelt, whether it just be a lap belt or, you know, the crossover and lap. And those way back, especially for us who wear glasses, we'd have those automatic because people didn't like the crossover in the beginning. They'd have the automatic seatbelt come across and it'd sit there and rip your glasses off or pin your head against the A-pillar.
I'm dead.
Or that story.
You get your head caught.
And you're like, you're shutting the door for it to go back. Then you look around, did anybody see that? No, okay.
I remember that.
But yeah, they all work hand in hand. You have to have them. And now, you know, not only do we have the passenger and the driver front airbags, we have the side curtains, and now we have them even in the back seats. And we have them on the sides of the seat, but now even the back seats and the headrests to protect the passengers in the back seat. They'll deploy for the backseat passengers. So another reason to make sure that if you have an infant or a child carrier, and it's still the infant is that size that's in the carrier, that make sure it's facing the back seat itself and not forward. Because some vehicles have it and you don't know. Your car or truck may have it, or car, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And those things pop. We used to have to release them because long ago the steering wheel, the horn pads used to warp in the Florida sun, for lack of a better word. And the car was a little older. I'm sure, Dave, you had a slew of these too. The horn used to go off like at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
Because the plastic cooled off and it contracted and it made the signal.
Made the contact. Actually, contact in.
Everybody's out there, why is my car horn going off? You know, because the horn pad warped. And so we used to have to replace, on some manufacturers, replace the steering wheel. So we had the pleasure, we would go in the back of the shop there and we'd get about 20, 25 foot of wire. We'd get a battery And we'd let it loose because you couldn't throw them. You could dispose of them in the trash that way if they were deployed. But if they weren't, you couldn't do that. Those things, I mean, they'd fly. They would
That'd
fly.
be pretty funny for the garbage man at 4 o'clock in the morning, wouldn't
No,
it?
there'd be garbage everywhere.
No, when
It'd be everywhere.
it gets in his trash truck, that'll wake him up.
It'd be everywhere. Yeah, that thing launches. In fact, I remember one time we had a couple of mascots, and one of them was a rubber chicken, and we put a rubber chicken on top of it one time. And we deployed the airbag, and we thought we lost that rubber chicken. I mean, it went into outer space, and it finally came back when we deployed that airbag on it. Yeah. So it's nothing to mess with. Nothing to mess with.
No, definitely not.
Let's see. That was Dave. Hold on here. Okay, our next one is John from Louisville. John asks, my mechanic said he couldn't do an alignment until he replaced a part of my vehicle. I went to another shop and they did the alignment. I lost faith in my old mechanic, who I've been going to for years. Why wouldn't he have just aligned the car? Should I ask or should I stick to my new mechanic and go on?
I think the new mechanic is a crook.
What's that?
I think the new mechanic is a crook.
What did you say, Dave?
It depends on the part that you're trying to get replaced too.
That's
So
true.
you can still align the car and make it all in the nice green, but as soon as you move it, it's out. You're done.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, we made our adjustments. Yeah.
Here's your printout.
Yep. And they
You
back
go
it
out,
up.
you make
and then,
one corner and it's done. It goes off again.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember Peter telling me that he observed somebody in the higher echelon there, and they were trying to do something with an alignment, and he bumped a tire, and he goes, now it's in, let it go. And Peter was like, Peter's just a bystander on that one. And Peter's like, oh my God. Yeah.
It was a district manager.
District manager did that.
Mm-hmm.
Told the tech to let it go. Yep, now it's in.
That's not right.
No.
No.
John probably should get just somebody to shake the front end. Just to see if
Yep.
something's really loose or not. They would tell him right there. Tell him volumes.
Well, that's what anybody should be doing in the first place anyway, unless the car's maybe brand new, but you gotta shake the front end down because you can't adjust it if something's out of whack.
And nowadays, a lot of the vehicles have electric steering. So unless you go in there with your scanner, you can hide a lot of things, because if you have a vibration up front, say like, for an example, you have a tire maybe a quarter or half ounce off, the rack, it'll recognize and it'll absorb that, and you won't feel it in the steering wheel anymore. That's scary. That's really scary. That's, for the consumer, because they won't notice until it really starts to have an issue. And it's just the way it is. It's just moving that way. More and more electric. Things going electric. Electric vehicles, that's a whole thing that we all should do in electric vehicles anyway. But needless to say, I have something at the end that I pulled up some interesting tidbits on electric versus ICE, or internal combustion engines, ICE engines, just before we go. I'll tell you about that. But yeah, I'd have somebody shake it down, wouldn't you guys?
Oh, absolutely.
Check on that front end. I wonder if the second guy even did that. It's alignment, okay.
I
If he
doubt
wasn't
it.
trained.
Probably one of those $39 alignment shops, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Hopefully no. Hopefully no. That should be a flag to everybody, though.
Yeah.
There's a reason why it's cheap. They're trying to get people in. You don't want that. I don't know. So John, I'd have somebody shake it down. Maybe one of the two shops. Say, shake it down and prove there's nothing loose. That would give you your answer right there.
Usually
Okay.
the cheap alignment was, back in the day, I guess, was just setting toe. Not a
Set the toe and let it go.
Right.
Yeah.
Set the toe and let it go. And then you go down, dog trekking. So your rear end's off to the side and your front end's off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Set
seen
the
that
toe and let
before,
it
too.
go. Oh yeah, I see it once in a while still. You'll
Yeah.
see a car going because you do it all these years, right, Dave? And you sit there and you have a car in front of you or a couple, and you're looking at that stuff too. Unfortunately, you should be. Yeah, instead of looking at the traffic, but to amuse yourself because there's so much traffic and everybody's just kind of slow pacing it, and so you'll start to listen to the other cars, and you'll stop and you'll kind of look over at the tread wear. I mean, it's bad. I know. But yeah, you'll see him dog walk. Yeah. Last one here. This is from Denise. She's from Ocala. Denise from Ocala. How nice. She says, my car started running bad, so I had my mechanic look at it. He said I needed new spark plugs and wires. Then he said that the wires were attached to coils and that they were more expensive than wires. The repair was expensive, but the part I didn't understand was about the extra coils. Why would my car have extra coils? Welcome to the new age of automobiles. Yep. Even have
Parts to break down.
Extra parts to break down. Simpler to put together at the assembly plant. And they call them COPs, coilover plugs. Yeah.
Exactly.
Common, real common now. And they went past the distributorless ignition, the distributor coil packs over to this. And they can get pretty expensive on some of the Europeans, especially. Those can be pretty high priced. She doesn't say what she has. But now they're spark plug wires like that now, instead of like that long.
Yeah, we have to route it around like a snake to get it to its right spark plug hole.
Oh, when you used to have to sit there and route the wires?
Yeah, one at a time.
Yep, through the
loom.
loom.
One at a time.
Yep.
Mark them, mark them. And then sometimes, once in a while, somebody interrupted you, and you go back and you're like, where is this? And then you'd do this and you'd know right away. Take them off, cross them back. Okay, that's being blonde.
I've done that.
You know that? That blonde moment. Yeah, you always, when you did which is much nicer now because we're dealing with overhead, right? So the plugs, majority of them on today's cars and trucks, they're right there and we just pop them right out. Where before we used to have to go around all that AC stuff and that was a pain. You used to have to tilt the transverse engine and get to the backs, rock it.
Back three or the back four.
Yep. Used to rock it and I used to sit and have somebody hit the emergency brakes so it'd stay.
Exactly, so it tilts.
Yeah. You can get back in there. Give yourself a fighting chance.
And you have to have the engine cool because the exhaust is sitting right there.
Oh, yeah.
So you can burn your knuckles off.
Mm-hmm. I said that the other day. I can't remember what I was doing. I was talking to my mom on the phone and I was pulling something out of the oven. And I put my hand in the oven. To me, it wasn't that hot. And I thought, no, I do need a pot holder. While I'm talking to you on the phone. But we're around that, the temps can get up to 300, 325 degrees easy after the car sits for a while. We work around that all the time. So when we feel that, we're like, it's funny how we condition ourselves.
Exactly.
And then eating your whole dinner in 5 minutes because that's not what you could do for lunch. Never could
You
figure
wolf it
out.
down.
Yeah, never could figure out why my dad ate so fast. You know, he was like, boom, he was done. And it's like, now I know why. Because this is all the time you get when you're at work. Yeah, they say a half hour, they say an hour. Ha ha. It doesn't quite work like that. So yeah, wolf it down. But yeah, those hot exhaust manifolds. They used to have these sleeves that you would wear, and they never worked. All the sleeves off the truck, these asbestos sleeves. So if your hand did touch the exhaust manifold, it wouldn't hurt so bad. No, I'm sorry, it went through it. It still burned.
I've seen them, but I don't think I've seen anybody use them.
Yeah, I used it like once or twice, and in the trash it went. It was horrible.
Exactly.
They were just worthless. So you'd have your battle scar for the week. Yep. Got that on a Town and Country, you know.
Exactly.
That's my battle scar this week. I remember, I think between the two of them, I don't know if it was a old DeVille, the hood came down on me while I was underneath. I was changing plugs there. That hurt. That was a couple of decades ago because the hood struts, all of a sudden they just went.
They get weak.
Yeah. I got weak. I trusted them and I shouldn't have. Then I remember one time I was working on another vehicle and the nut actually snapped off and I came up and I hit the hood and the hood came down and I tried to stop it, but it came down. In fact, I can even today feel that little dent there.
Ouch.
Those are the two that I was really lucky, really, really lucky that I didn't break something. Knock on wood.
That was one of the best tools. Was the hood strut clamp? That little clamp that you just
That
pop
little
on there
clampy
and-
twist.
Yep.
Yep.
It's one of the best tools in the world.
Had a flag off of it. So when you're done, you didn't forget and you're trying to pull the hood
Don't
down.
forget it.
Yeah, it really was. And the guy, he's out in Antigua somewhere, or the Bahamas, drinking cocktails right now, whoever invented that one. We're still working on cars. Oh, let's see. We talked about the hand grenades. I wanted to talk about that. So a couple of what I found interesting, in fact, I did an article on it recently, was, excuse me, Porsche, VW Audi. They recently announced, and a lot of the general public, they don't see this stuff. I don't know why the news media doesn't announce this stuff, because this is good information and stuff that they need to know going forward to make that decision what they want to be driving in the future. BEVs versus battery electric vehicles versus a hybrid battery fuel, which it could have been either diesel or gasoline, or, you know, just your typical ICE engine, internal combustion engine, where we use diesel or gasoline. And some have been retrofitted to CNG, which is great. But now, Porsche, they're going to make a lot of money off of this. They have developed a fuel that has a lower carbon footprint than an electric vehicle. From start when they process it to the end when it goes out the tailpipe. And there's no retrofitting our cars. I could put it in my car, Dave, you could put it in your car, Peter, you could put it in your car tomorrow. No retrofit.
Tell me more.
Well, they are expected to do about 30,000 gallons this year for their test phase. But they've been working on this for a couple of years, and enough that they have announced it and said, yeah, this works. So we need to keep tuned to this, because battery electric vehicles are great, but we have to plug them in, don't we? And we don't want to be sitting in front of Walmart or Target or the grocery store at one of the area plug-ins and sitting there at the curb waiting for our vehicle to get recharged. Because we can't do it at home because of our infrastructure needs a lot of help. Our electrical infrastructure needs a lot of help here in the US, big time help. And for it to support electric vehicles, yeah, maybe 2 or 3 a block. But other than that, you know, people are going to get awfully tired of sitting there watching Forged or one of the other TV shows, and all of a sudden they get a brownout or they get a blackout because they can't handle the load. So it's just not that they're going to produce, hey, here we go, we're going to be producing these electric vehicles. Just doesn't happen like that. There's a lot of thought. And even though Ford and GM and Stellantis, which is the new Chrysler Stellantis, and a bunch of other ones, they're sitting there saying, yes, we have the new electric vehicle out and everything. If you notice the numbers, we average about 17 million vehicles sold here in the US every year. They're only going to be producing maybe 40 or 50,000 of these units. So it's not like a ton of them are going out. There's a lot going on, but yeah, if they could really capitalize on this synthetic fuel, and I'm sure there's others on board, they're kind of being real quiet about it. And I know some US firms are involved in it too. They're being quiet about it, but hey, why not? You're not going to retrofit all these cars and trucks. They're going to be out there. Average age is over 12 years now.
Oh, yeah.
You see 20-year-old cars running around all the time. Easy. So, yeah, new fuel.
That's actually very exciting.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
Yeah, so neat. Yeah. I was doing that and trying to talk to somebody about it. No, I was calling, say, hey, you know, I'm doing this paper. Can you give me a quote or two? Nope.
Top secret.
Nope. Here's our press release about what it was. Here's our press release.
Yes,
this is what we can tell you.
Top secret to you, unless you show some cash.
Exactly.
And they'll let you know.
Exactly. But
that's actually very good. And it's exciting because, like you said, you know, when it comes to electric, we don't have the infrastructure, at least not in the U.S. You know, most people don't drive 2 miles to work. You know, they drive 30, 40 miles a day. And, you know, we don't live close together. You know, Germany, everybody's pretty tight. You know, when we go travel, we're going hundreds of miles. And the electric car is not there yet.
No, you know, the average electric car, it wouldn't make it from Tampa to Fort Myers and back in one charge. Because we got heat, right, Dave? Heat, Peter?
Yep.
Heat and cold, temperature variation, that all is to depend upon the charge and the battery and
accessories.
One thing on the proving grounds, but it's another thing when Joe Smith buys the car. What happens?
You put 5 kids in it. It's the Florida sun, and all of a sudden you wear out faster than, you know, somebody in Missouri.
Yeah, that's true. It really is true. But yeah, I'm kind of stoked about this new fuel. They're doing it, or they wouldn't have announced it.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah. You guys have anything? Read off some of our emails and talked about the new fuel.
I'm going to be doing a little investigating now.
Yeah. Porsche, Audi, VW.
So it's Volkswagen, yeah.
Yeah, the same group who got in trouble a few years back with the emissions, the diesel emissions.
The diesel emissions.
What do they pay? $11 billion for the first fine. Then they had to pay out
ridiculous
millions, hundreds of millions for each individual state and everything. Yeah. Then they sat there, and in that problem, they rotated the CEOs around between Audi and VW and all that. Well, they circled back, and I'm trying to remember the guy's last name starts with a W, who was the head of VW when this all came apart, unraveled. And they're actually going after him now and for charges.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, what is the guy's name?
I can picture his face.
Well, yeah, I can see it right in front of me. Shame on me, I should have wrote it down. But I didn't think we were going to talk about this. Wolf? Oh, I'll tell you around 2 o'clock this morning. I'll sit there and text you guys. Hey, this is the guy's name. I remembered.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, wake up. That's right.
that's right. Yeah, my encyclopedia there and on the ceiling's not helping me either. So my calendar, that's my calendar actually on the ceiling. But anything else, you guys?
No,
Anything interesting this week?
Nothing new. COVID. We're all stuck in the house.
Oh. A lot of automotive out, and they're not wearing masks. You know, they never wore masks, which was really bizarre. We were up for a conference in South Carolina about a month and a half ago. Nobody was wearing masks. You go to a restaurant, no masks. I mean, the cooks weren't wearing masks, the servers, the bartender, nobody's wearing masks. Going to the hotel, no masks. Georgia was like that too, cutting through. Come back to Florida, yeah, no masks. We're here, we got masks again. Then I was in one of the schools. The kids had masks. They were like, I mean, high school kids, you know, the masks aren't like that. They're half on, their nose is showing, you know, stuff like that. I'm like, okay. And everybody's jammed together, and I'm like, yeah, they're all fine. It's like, let us live. Let's open up again. That'd be nice. Have everything open for everyone. No more masks, and they can breathe normal again. Because that's hard. Especially if you have asthma. That'd be really, really hard. Or anything like that. But.
All right.
Well,
So
thank you,
I'm
guys.
actually going to bring in Michelle.
Okay.
And thank you for talking to us. And
Thank you for
definitely
talking.
going to be looking
Thanks for having us on.
Gas.
Yeah. And
All right,
we're
take
going to
care.
do this next month, all three of us. Next month again? Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I disappeared.
You would.
All right. Take care, guys.
Take
All
care.
right. See you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Michelle's gonna,
Gonna hop on here in a minute.
yep, she's gonna do our outro, and we can put another month. I don't know where the month went to. Another month
Another one in the books.
in the books. Yes.
That was a really good one too. It's amazing how many questions all of the regular people like me have. And I mean, honestly, this is like having a mechanic in your back pocket to be able to ask questions to and learn from. And
You do though.
I do.
You
Sometimes I learn too much.
you got a master tech right there. That's nice.
But yeah, I mean, so many people have so many questions all the time. And he used to always come home with those stories of people coming in and making noises. And you know, and although he laughed at them, he basically wanted people to do that. Like, I still hear him ask people, "What sound is it making?" Just try to imitate it for me. And then he can usually, and I'm sure you guys, like, you must get that all the time.
Oh yeah. We have, like, Dave, I'm sure, had like electronic ears that we put on the card, to zero in on the noise and everything. Yeah.
Probably, I don't know. He goes by. We can't go down the street ever without him going, "They need a new fan belt. They need their air conditioner." And I'm like, "What?"
Gee, that sounds familiar.
Like, how do you? Should I tell him? I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
You know, I said that when we first moved to the area and we had new neighbors and they didn't know us from Adam. And one of the neighbors left and the car went by and I says, "They need an alternator." And the other neighbor looked at me and went, Yeah. They says, no. I says, you know them. I says, tell them they haven't looked at. They need an alternator. And a few weeks later, I go, hey, you were right.
Yeah, you guys have that ear, I tell you. What
From
really drives me the most crazy though is when we're driving and he thinks there's something a little off with our car, and he does this little wobble with it, back and forth, and I'm like, "Stop it! What are you doing?" Like, there's a nickel in the back of the trunk. Like, what? No, I mean he says real things, but yeah, I'm
yeah,
like,
I
do that when
understand.
I'm
Yeah.
not in the car. He loves us diagnosing.
He'd love this one. You'll love this one. For whatever reason, I don't know why, my dad put one of those 5-gallon water bottles in the trunk, but it was empty.
Okay.
I guess he wanted me to take it back to work. Never told me, okay? So I was going home one evening. I worked the late shift, and I was going home. And I turned the corner, and I hear this little like that. And I'm like, what is that? I was doing what Dave was doing.
Did you do the little?
Oh, yeah, I was doing all that. And finally, I'm like, that's in the back end. And I'm thinking, what's back there? What's back there? What could be back there? I know my trunk's empty because I don't keep anything in the trunk. What is this noise? And I'm like, I'm going to go on the interstate. I don't want to trust it. So I called the hook. I says, take it back to the shop. And needless to say, the next morning, you're listening to it, went in early listening to it. And my dad says, well, what's in your trunk? And I says, nothing. He goes, no, check and see what's in your trunk. And I popped in, there's this water bottle. And he goes, yeah, I forgot to tell you about that. And I'm like,
Yep. Something that can
really?
happen to all of us and probably has.
We used to see the sunglasses in the doors. The bottom, you have like a map holder and things like that. And people would put their sunglasses in there and they'd slide back and forth.
Rattle.
Yeah, it'd rattle. But yeah, the water bottle. I just looked at him and he was like, up. And I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't get home for an hour and a half.
So see, everybody, it even happens to the most master of mechanics.
Doesn't matter.
And with
It
that,
just
I think we'll
happens.
go ahead and say goodnight to everybody. So
Good night.
Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
appreciate
Good night,
your
everybody.
time,
Thank you.
and we'll catch you next month
Next month,
for another auto chat with Pam.
more automotive excitement.
And good night.
Good night.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.